Don't choose the most expensive life insurance policy you may ever buy. In this episode, I'm going to answer the question, should I choose a survivor benefit on my pension? A lot of people think about this, and sometimes they make a rapid decision without really understanding what they're doing at retirement when they choose a survivor benefit. Get ready to learn the truth. So my name's Doug Andrew, and as a retirement planning specialist for more than 4.5 decades, I've helped many people who had defined benefit pensions. What's that? Well, this would be like a school teacher who maybe taught school for 30 years in their state. And so most states have defined benefit pensions. Those are fewer and far between. They've been replaced by defined contribution plan. A defined benefit pension came around clear back in the Industrial Revolution, that if you worked for, a Ford Motor Company or Harley Davidson or what have you, when you retired, you would have a defined amount of retirement benefit coming to you based upon your years of service. So for example, a school teacher may get 2% for every year of service. So if they taught school 30 years, that's 2 times 30 is 60% of the average paycheck they earned or took home the last 5 years they taught school. And so, if they were making $5,000 a month, they're going to get $3,000 a month in a defined benefit, and there's usually a cost of living increase. That's what a defined benefit pension is. But at retirement, what happens is you sit down and the counselor goes, now, you can get $3,000 a month, but if you'll just take $2,400 a month, that will mean that you can share this retirement benefit with your spouse if you happen to die first. And that's a survivor benefit. You give up some of your income in order to make sure that if you die before your spouse does, your spouse will continue to get that income for as long as they live. Sounds good, right? It's not very good when you analyze it. So get ready to understand this better. So I would say the following scenario usually plays out when a lot of people who have pensions are about to retire and they're sitting down with the counselor. It goes something like this. Well, Jim, you're approaching retirement, and so you have some choices to make. You have some options. Now, you could take a lump sum. Sometimes they let you take a lump sum, and most of the time when they offer that, I would recommend considering taking the lump sum instead of the guaranteed income for life. That can be calculated, and I could show you how a lump sum could probably generate as much or more income for as long as you live and your spouse lives, and then still leave behind plenty to your children, where most pensions would not do that. But sometimes they don't offer a lump sum distribution. So the conversation goes, now, you have the equivalent of a $500,000 asset here, or it might be $1 million or whatever, because what they may do is, your pension is going to be, let's say, $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. Now, in order to generate $60,000 a year, you would have to have an asset of, $500,000 or whatever the number is. It's easy to calculate this, generating this rate of return to be able to pay you $60,000 to your LE, life expectancy. So you really have a $500,000 asset, let's say. Now, I'm sure you would like to share that with your spouse. And they turn and they look at your spouse. And you go, they put you on this guilt trip. Well, honey, I'd like to share that with you. Well, we thought so. And so we would recommend you take the survivor benefit option. And there's usually 2 or 3. Now, instead of getting $5,000 a month, you're only going to get $4,200 a month. It's $800 a month less, but that means that you'll get $4,200 a month for as long as you live, and when you pass away, your spouse will continue to get $4,200 a month. Or you can get $4,500 a month and your spouse will get half that for as long as he or she lives. Does that sound good? And, they nod their head up and down, and you go, oh, okay, yeah. So you think, golly, that sounds pretty good. My spouse will get it. Well, what they may not tell you is, what if your spouse dies first? Sorry, if you get remarried, you cannot name your next spouse as a beneficiary to receive that. You must die first. If your spouse dies first, then you cannot name a new beneficiary. Your children, what if you selected that option and you died 91 days after retiring? It's gone. Now people say, well, if you choose the no survivor option, it's gone. Well, yeah, but if the husband and wife die in a common disaster, it's gone. So what's better? What they don't realize is that when they choose the survivor option, they are buying the most expensive life insurance policy they will ever buy. So, as I mentioned, I think a lot of people ought to consider a lump sum payout if they offer it. A lot of times they won't, but many, many times when the people who have your pension, they say, well, you can have this much income, or there may be a lump sum option. A lot of times they don't like to tell you that. When I've done an analysis for many people, the lump sum deposited into, even after tax, because you have to pay tax on that, into a max funded insurance contract, the way I structure them, can generate tax-free income equal to, or sometimes greater than, the amount of pension income that they would have to take if they chose not to take a lump sum, but to take a lifetime income, with or without a survivor benefit. And so it would behoove you to analyze, golly, if I can take out a lump sum, could I have that generate the same income or greater? So what's the advantage? Well, then when you pass away, you're not giving up anything, because a lot of pensions, when you pass away, it's done, it's gone, it stops. If you have that money, it doesn't stop, because where I put my serious cash, what I call the laser fund, when I pass away, it blossoms and transfers tax-free. A pension, it's over unless you choose the survivor option. Now, I mentioned, if you choose the survivor option, it may be the most expensive insurance policy you will ever buy. Why don't you just buy your own private insurance policy with the difference? So let's say the pension is going to give you $5,000 a month with no survivor benefit. If you take a survivor benefit, it's only $4,200 a month. So you're giving up $800 a month in order to share that with your spouse if you die, but it's only if you die first. Well, I would rather take that $800 a month and buy a life insurance policy. Do you know that 60, 65-year-old oftentimes can get $500,000, $1 million of life insurance for $800 a month? And so here you've got $500,000 or $1 million of life insurance, and you are actually owning the insurance, so that now, when you die, your spouse gets a huge lump sum, or they can take that and put that into a new insurance policy and generate as much or more income than the survivor benefit would ever generate. And if your spouse predeceases you and you get remarried, you can name a new beneficiary. You can name your children as contingent beneficiaries. You cannot do that with a survivor benefit. You have to die first for your survivor to get anything. If they die first, it's over. It's done. This is why I think it behooves you to have your own private insurance policy and fund it with the difference in what they're going to deduct out of your pension income for that survivor benefit. Otherwise, take the lump sum, maximum fund an insurance policy, and the death benefit will provide for your spouse whenever you do die. If you understood what I just said, if you had a lump sum of $500,000 or $1 million, or if that was a proceed from the life insurance, if you happen to pass away and that's what you left behind, you put that into a maximum funded insurance policy. And historically, for the last 45 years, I've earned average returns between 6 to 10%. But when you start taking payouts, every million can generate like $80,000 a year of tax-free income for as long as you live, and still leave behind the million or whatever was in there. So it's far better than a defined benefit pension. So as we connect the dots on answering the question, should I choose a survivor benefit on a pension? Hopefully, you're beginning to realize that if you choose a survivor benefit, you're actually buying the most expensive life insurance policy you will ever buy, and you don't have the options that you would have if you owned that life insurance policy privately. So when you take a lump sum and you reposition that into a max-funded indexed universal life insurance policy, I've shared with you how you can earn tax-free income that is equal to or greater than many pensions provide. And at the end of the day, your spouse gets to keep it going, and your children, you're not restricted to one beneficiary. And if your wife predeceases you or your spouse, you can name a new beneficiary, which you can't do with a pension when you select a survivor benefit. But when you put it into an insurance policy, not only can you get tax-free income, or if you are taking the maximum life-only payout, take the difference. In the example I gave you, if you can take $5,000, let's say, for life only, but when you die, it's gone. But if you lowered it down to $4,200 or $4,000, and that provides a survivor benefit, but only for your current spouse, hello, you take that difference of $800 a month or $1,000 a month and put that into a new life insurance policy you own privately. And now, when you pass away, anybody that you name as a beneficiary can own that. Whereas with a survivor benefit, you only have one beneficiary. So that makes way more sense. But as you provide that additional life insurance, it's far more flexible. In other words, when you choose a max-funded index universal life policy, you do not have to max fund it necessarily. You can minimum fund it just for the death benefit. But if later on you had a windfall, you inherited some money, or you got a lump sum from somewhere, where could you put it? You could put it into the insurance policy and max fund it and earn predictable rates of return. See, it is so flexible. You can minimum fund it, you can maximum fund it, but it gives you choices. When you select a survivor benefit and a pension, you're stuck. You cannot change that. If you die sooner than later, it's pretty much the way it is. If your spouse predeceases you, it's done. It's determined. You don't have the flexibility that your own life insurance policy can provide. So don't buy the most expensive life insurance policy you will ever buy. If I frame it like that, you would never make that choice. So how can you learn more? If this has piqued interest, I would love to gift you a free copy of my most recent best-selling 300-page book, The Laser Fund, which is actually 2 books in one. This book here is about 200 pages, comprised of 14 chapters with all kinds of charts and graphs and explanations of how to diversify and create the foundation for a tax-free retirement. Now, if you learn more right brain with stories and examples, you flip the book over and read this one. This is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories like the one I just told you. If you like to use your whole brain, I would recommend you read both books. But it's 300 pages. This has been flying off of our warehouse shelves. I'll tell you what, I will pay for the book. You go to Laser Fund, L-A-S-E-R, fund.com. It's on the screen here. And claim your free copy. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost, and I will send out a book to you. There's also options there for you to listen and learn and watch and learn. But here's to your brighter future.